This video is for young men, that is, men who are well under the age of 35, who still live at home with their family, with their parents, and need to get the hell out of there. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it because I moved out of my home when I was 18 years old with no money, no job experience in the middle of a recession. So if I did it, you can do it, and here's how. The bottom line is that you cannot be free if you live with your parents. It doesn't matter if you're over the age of 18. It doesn't matter if you're a legal adult. It doesn't matter if your parents are rich and your house is wonderful and you live in a beautiful neighborhood. If you live at home with mommy and daddy, you are not free. You cannot come and go as you please. You cannot do literally whatever you want. You will still have to abide by their rules, even if you're in your fucking 30s, right? Right. You know this is true. That means if you want to be free, you've got to get the hell out of that house. I have said many times, I would rather you live in a crappy, rundown, rat-infested studio apartment in the worst part of town with roommates than you living at home with mommy and daddy. Because at least the guy in the crappy studio apartment with roommates is free. He can do whatever he wants. He can set his own schedule. He can manage his household any way he likes because mommy and daddy are not there looking over his shoulder like a 5-year-old. Unfortunately, as the Western world continues its economic collapse, it is now the norm. I can't believe this. It is now the norm for men in their mid-20s, late 20s, and even early 30s to still live at home with their parents. Even saying that kills a part of my soul. I moved the fuck out when I was 18 years old. I don't understand this concept, but okay, fine. I moved out when I was 18. I moved out in the middle of recession and I never looked back. Now I did move back to my parents' house for about 3 months where I saved up for a down payment on a condo. I did do that when I was about 19, but I was in and out in 3 months. That was it. And since then, I never looked back. I've never moved back with my parents because I wanted to be free. I wanted to live my life and design my own life. I wanted to detach my umbilical cord from mommy and daddy. Here then are the 5 steps that you can take to move out of your parents' house and actually, shock of all shock, be a fucking man. Step 1, find out how much a studio apartment costs. Get on whatever apartment rental apps or websites are appropriate in your city and start looking around. Look for a cheap studio apartment, the cheapest apartment you can find. Don't look for a fancy apartment. Don't look for a 2-bedroom apartment. Beggars can't be choosers. The objective is to get out of your parents' house, not live like a multimillionaire when you're 19. That's not how this works. Find a cheap place to live. Look at various parts of the city. Look at various options. If you don't want a studio apartment, another way you can pull this, a lot of single women do this when they move here to Dubai, which is pretty expensive. You can rent a room in a large house or a large apartment where you have your own bathroom. God forbid you could even share a bathroom with another guy. Fine. But do whatever you need to do to get the pricing on the exact monthly price, the exact monthly rent you're going to need to come up with. Instead of just saying, well, rent is expensive, I can't move out. That is a bullshit beta male excuse. Get the real numbers and write them down. In terms of the places in which to live, the parts of town in which to live, my recommendation is you live in the cheapest, shittiest part of town that is not super unsafe. Most major cities have areas of the city that is cheap, that's not great, but it's not super unsafe. You're not going to get murdered or shot in the head as you walk down the street. You don't want to live in those parts of town, but one notch above that where it's the lower end part of town, but still reasonably safe. That's where you want to look. Now, obviously, if you can afford more than that, great. But my assumption is if you're a young man still living at home with your parents, you can't afford a lot. And that's the assumption I'm making on this video. Otherwise, why the hell are you still living home with your parents, you beta? Step 2, create a budget spreadsheet. This is exactly what I did back when I was 17 years old, still in high school, getting ready to move out. Get a little spreadsheet, very simple, and write down these 5 things and assign values to them. Number 1, the rent. You just figured out how much that would be, so plug that number in there. Number 2, utilities, usually a few $100. That'd be things like internet, maybe a cable bill. I don't know why you'd pay for cable. Stupid, but okay. Electricity, maybe natural gas, water, garbage. Often with apartments, water and garbage is included in the rent. Figure that out, but put in a value that you think is close, a good estimate for the amount of utilities you'll have to spend per month. Number 3, if you have a car costs. If you have a car payment, car insurance, gas, and maybe a little money, a little monthly amount for upkeep, you could throw in a savings account or something like that. So put that in a spreadsheet as well. Next, any debts you have. Now, likely if you're a young guy, hopefully you don't have a lot of debts or any debt. If you do have credit card debts or loans or God forbid student loans, you fucking moron, put those in there and how much those are per month. Put that down. All the debt payments you have, plug that in there that you actually have to spend money on now or in the near future. Plug that into your spreadsheet. Last one is groceries. So toothpaste, food, basic groceries. Get an idea for how much that would cost if you did your own grocery shopping. Maybe you already buy your own food now. Great, you have a pretty good idea for that. And again, you're not buying steaks. You're buying normal food. Okay, again, beggars can't be choosers. The goal is to move out, not live like a king. Okay? Before I go on to the next steps, if you like this content, how to date multiple attractive women without cheating or lying or drama, living a free lifestyle, location-independent income as a man, you should subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, put a like on this video, leave a comment on this video, and that way you'll be sure to get this content for free in the future. Step 3, using your spreadsheet. Come up with a total monthly amount you will need. Now here's the trick for this one. You can't just add up all of your expenses and get a number. That's the after-tax amount you need. You're going to have to deal with my favorite thing in the world, taxes. Most likely you have a job. You probably don't have your own business. If you do, great. But if you don't, what I would recommend is you factor 30% for taxes. So whatever that total figure is in terms of your total expenses for a month, add 30% to that number. So multiply by 1.3, get a new figure. Now that's the amount of pre-tax money you need to make, usually from a job or gigs or what have you. Now you know what your goal is in terms of your monthly income to get the hell out of your parents' house. This is your key number you have to be out in the world and survive on your own. This is the most important number in your life right now. Now, you may be shocked to learn with a little tweaking on your spreadsheet, maybe you make that amount right now. Maybe you can move the fuck out right now. Some of you are in that scenario. Do these exercises and you might be surprised. Many of you are not in that scenario. Some of you aren't making any money. What the fuck are you doing? Some of you are making some money, but not enough. Good, but not good enough. That means now you have a goal. You have a goal number to hit in terms of your income. Now, this goal number may change based on the next step, and that is step 4, determine if you need a roommate or not. It's possible that if you found a studio apartment that's big enough for 2 people, you might figure out that if you save 50% on rent and 50% on utilities, that could be a second column in your spreadsheet, that if you just find a roommate, you can move out right now or move out really quick. Make that determination. I have never had a roommate. I was able to make it work. I was poor. I struggled. It was hard, but I really didn't want to have a roommate. But again, I'm going to say this again. It's better to have a roommate, even a shitty roommate, than live at home with mommy and daddy, because then you're free. You're free to date women, get laid, start your Alpha 2.0 business, and live the life you want to live. It's very difficult to do these things when mommy and daddy are living in the same house as you, especially when they own the house. Make that decision and change your budget accordingly, which changes your key number accordingly. Step 5, if you make that amount of money, move out right now. Caleb, what about savings? Savings are helpful. Savings are important. But don't let that be an excuse. If you have no money in savings, but you have plenty of money in terms of income to move out, especially if you could put $200 or $300 away or even more per month in savings, I would move out now. When I moved out, I had no savings. I just fucking moved out. I had the confidence in my ability to get jobs or to do gigs and make enough money for this small amount of money I needed to move out. And that's the beauty of this system. If you're a young guy, that monthly nut that you need is probably pretty tiny. You should see the amount of money I need to make to cover my personal expenses and all my business expenses for all my companies. It's quite significant. So the beauty of being a young guy starting out is your numbers can be very low. If you do not make the money yet, you now have a goal to work on. Set a goal to make that amount of money as soon as you possibly can. Do whatever you need to do to make that money. If that means you need to get a new job, get a new job. If that means you need to get a second job because you only work 20 hours a week, you beta, then do that. If that means you need to take on extra gigs, do that. Do whatever you need to do to make that extra income. It's not that hard if you're motivated. Don't use a bunch of excuses about, well, the economy's bad right now and I'm black and I can't make any money. That is all a bunch of beta male bullshit. Do what you need to do to make that small amount of money so you can move out. Now, let me give you one variation on this, one question some of you may have. This is a question I've received in the past. Hey, Caleb, I could afford to technically move out right now, but if I wait 6 more months, instead of paying rent, I could dump that on this debt that I have, and this debt that cost me $500 a month will vanish in 6 months if I just wait 6 months, pay off the debt, and then move out. Is that a good idea? My general answer is that yes, that is a good idea if we're talking about less than a year. If we're talking about less than a year where you can pay off all your debts or a significant monthly debt and then you move out, I agree with you. I think that's a good idea. That's a one-time exception. Less than a year. If it's going to take you 3 or 4 or 5 years to pay off all these debts, sorry, get the fuck out of mommy and daddy's house so you can start living like a man. By the way, if you want dating advice for younger men like you should watch that video right now, and I'll see you in that video.